Great. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. And I would request if you're not speaking, please, if you can mute yourself. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the session Saturdays for Sustainability Learning. And today, uh, as usual, with the goal to understand sustainability with a holistic way, looking at the different aspects of it. So, today we are connecting again. And if you're joining for the first time, let me just recapitulate or just summarize what this initiative is and then quickly we'll start. So, if you have why questions, so this is a mastermind group where we connect for peer-to-peer mentoring, learning, solving some problems, and getting input and advice from peer members as well. So, joining this 60-minute, what benefits you will get? So, definitely learning something new, one concept, or a different aspect of a concept, networking with fellow professionals, learning opportunities, and thought leadership. So, where sustainability is taking India and where India is taking sustainability. So, that's something that explore together. And the two foundations, if you ask me, so these are two for this session, which is DIKW pyramid, data information knowledge system. So, this is like a pyramid, and we have more data, more information in today's time than we can possibly consume. But what we lack is the knowledge and wisdom, and that's a very difficult question. How do we acquire that? And one of the ways through understanding and getting from the experience of others, and that's what we will try to do. And here I would also like you all to not only be a listener in this session, but please you can also share your expertise, your experience, and that's how if everybody shares their uh, experience, so cumulative, it's a gain for all of us. And second is the discussion and question and answer is, I guess, one of the best way of learning. So please feel free to ask your question, your doubts, raise any discussion during as we go ahead as well. And just maybe sustainability aspect of joining these sessions. So I would request to register this Google form. Just one-time registration is required so that you will get a WhatsApp link and also the calendar invite for all the sessions. So that's how it becomes easier for all of us to manage and it gets automated. So I would request if you haven't registered, please do so. And it's a wonderful day today. In last week itself, we had a couple of minutes discussion on the skills part. And I'm very happy that today we have a topic called as the Future of Jobs Report 2025 from World Economic Forum. And I'm very happy to introduce our guest speaker for today, Mr. Achyuth Panduranga. He has been
Hi.
wearing different hats and he is expert into multiple things, but I'll just try to summarize few things. Business strategy and technology roadmap. So how do organizations should move ahead? He is agile enthusiast, education and tech for good. So how do we use education and technology for good? ESG enthusiast, entrepreneur. So many things, but one thing is for sure. So he's one of the great mentor as well. I'm really thankful for Achyuth for taking up this session. Without wasting much time, I'll hand over the session to you.
All right. Thank you, Dhananjay. Thanks everyone for making your time to come here for this discussion. Um, like I always say, you learn better when you can talk about it more or discuss with many more like-minded people who have similar interests. So I would really appreciate if you can participate in the conversation. This is more of a discussing about the jobs of the future report that WEF came up with. It's an area of interest for me. Just to highlight some of the previous work that I have done, I have been part of Hewlett Packard Enterprise Organization for 25 years. I came out June last year to start my own. And my interests have been in the ESG domain. I'm enthusiastically learning a few things in that space. Meanwhile, I'm also engaged with universities to upskill students and get them ready for the next level of work that they need to do coming out of colleges. So that's also why this subject is of close interest for me, jobs of the future. While I have some spare time, I also look to be a futurist. So this aligns mostly with my interests. And thank you for the opportunity to walk through it. I'm going to share my screen and talk about how I'm going to cover this topic. It's definitely it's not a justice to this topic. Um, with the time that we have at hand, I'll be upfront about it. This is a 290-page document. It has a varied set of inputs. Uh, I'm going to look to cover in these outline what WF is all about. What is this report? Why do they come up with this report? And what are the key drivers that are driving the jobs of the future? Or where are the jobs shifting? What are the reasons, rationale for that? And then I'm going to also cover a little bit of the skills outlook. What kind of skills are looking current, and how do we should be looking forward to this into the 2030, and what is exactly the corporates doing with respect to strategies of engaging with the workforce with the specific skill sets that they need. And to finish with, I'll take a couple of examples. We can take a country profile, look at how the country is doing. Being in India, I thought India would be a good report to look at. So I'm going to cover that part. And in its industry profile wise, we'll pick one of the industries. Again, I thought here's the note here. Energy tech and utilities as one of the areas where we can walk through. That way, we get a summary of the whole report, and then we look at a country and an industry so that we can draw it. This conversation is definitely not a whole and soul of understanding the full report. It is more like a you get an insight into how this report comes through and what are the areas that we can look into. Please do go through the full report or summaries of those report. I'll also share some of them as we go through this conversation. Um, I'm going to just go ahead and share my full screen rather than sharing just one app. Okay. Can you still see what I'm sharing?
It's mind map only.
Yeah, yeah. That's the one I'm sharing, but I'm going to switch between
Yes.
others. So can you also
Yes.
um,
Yes. Yes. We can
see
see.
this report? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I think we're set. So at the outset, WEFM, World Economic Forum, is a not-for-profit, non-governmental organization started by a professor from the Geneva University in Switzerland, Charles Schwab. It was started out in the 1971 time frame with an interest to kind of understand uh, economically how the world would develop. It was mostly restricted to the Europe to begin with. It spread into multiple locations, and then what started out as a not-for-profit organization also started gaining momentum from industry interests and others based on the reports they generate. By the way, Jobs of the Future report is not the only report they generate. They generate umpteen number of reports. So there are people who are interested in those industries, governments, organizations, not for profit, and others as well. So it's a paid membership into that. There are about 1,000 MNCs, multinational organizations. As part of that, they are all paid members. The more famous name from India in that trust, one of the trustees of the WF organization is Mukesh Ambani, representing Reliance Industries. Uh, they cover most of the countries across the world with respect to their work in terms of assessing not just the job report, but trade and partnerships and other details as well. And yeah, without for going further deeper into the political aspects of it, there are yeah, politicians who come in and talk about it, up talk, some down talk, and things like that. But in general, this is a forum which has members who pay for sustaining it, and they invest that money to understand the various trends that are happening in the market. Jobs being one of them. So getting into the jobs of the future, the 2025 report, there have been reports since 2016 in the job market. So I think it comes once in 2 years. We had a report in 2016, 18, 20, and then because of the pandemic and others, they delayed the 2022 to 2023. And then the more latest one, 2025, is what we are talking about today. So what happens here is there are multiple reports that come through it. I'm going to just go through the infographics view because it's a good summary. If you look at the WEF forum, that's where you would get all of these when you look for future of jobs report. I'm going to walk through this. Basically, uh, there are key drivers to any activity, right? So there are key drivers that drive any of the activity. And within those drivers, there are specific trends that they obtain by virtue of running a survey this year. This report ran a survey between May and October. It has a question about 38 questions. If the participant responded to that. In addition to that, they have access to a lot of this reports that they generate. So it's a conglomeration of all those reports and a lot of data rigging that happens to come up with this set of data. If you go to the end of the full report, you will see the references of all the reports that they have looked up, and for each of the areas on job shifts, skills, strategies, country-specific data, all of them they have referenced where they have provided references of where they have looked up information. So it's a pretty exhaustive list. I'm looking to condense it. It's like almost like playing a test match in a 2020 format. So I'm going to look to address those aspects. The key drivers that are driving the jobs of the future or from now 2025 to 2020 2030 are in these five broad categories. There have been a lot of technological change. I think say, ever since 2022 when generative AI and its tools came along, there's been a huge churn in terms of technology shifts. So that's one of the biggest aspects that are driving it. Next to that technological change, I have marked a few numbers out here. Basically, it is about what kind of jobs are they creating, how many jobs are they creating. The technology change in itself is creating about 19 million jobs and displacing about 9 million jobs with a net of 10 million job additions between now and 2030. That's how it's being looked at. When I cover the mega trends, I will speak for why this technological change is adding more jobs, right? Of course, there is an interest towards the environment that we operate in, and so the transition from the fossil fuel economy to a green economy transition, is also another shift that splits into two actually. There's a climate change adaptation, and then there's a climate change mitigation action that needs to happen. Both of them are getting enough and more momentum towards it. So if you look at it, they're together going to be creating about 5 10 million jobs is what they talk about. These are all going to be in the green space. So the green jobs are going to be the next big thing after the technological change job additions. Then there are a couple other key drivers. Demography shifts. Basically, it's got to do with within the demography, within the country, what is happening with respect to their population, right? There are certain countries which are aging. They're having a lot of aging population. Then there are countries which are having a growing population, which means they have a younger lot of people who are growing. Typically, I won't be amiss if I say it's typically more developed nations would be having a population stagnation or a decline, and hence they'll have a higher aged population, whereas up and coming demographies would be having a lot younger population. One which are having more working population are supposedly called countries with demographic dividends. India is one such country with a high demographic dividend. So when these shifts happen, right, there's an aging population. It will need different kinds of jobs, healthcare, hospitality, nursing. Those are kind of jobs that become more prevalent in such economies. This report highlights the same, that there are a lot of shifts in those developed economies where uh, these activities are coming up. These kind of jobs are coming up from a demography with the growing work population, as the growing working population age increases, there are a lot of aspiring people, and the economies will also be in a developing stage, moving towards greater maturity with respect to their economy. So, in such situations, the bigger job growths in those spaces would be in education across all streams, whether it's early education, higher education, university education, or skilling at the job. They are all jobs that will be in high demand in such growing working population demographies. So, in the demography shifts are also creating a lot of jobs. Some of them are displacing some jobs, and some of them are have to create new jobs because, as a demography starts developing, it will have to develop along with skills for the people. You can't be having the skills of the past and be able to become a developed nation because the cost of managing those will be pretty high and the country may not develop that fast. So demography shifts are also creating a lot of those jobs. I'll delve into that as we go talk about the job shifts and others. An interesting aspect is there are geoeconomic fragmentations. Basically, what happens here is as more and more economies have aspiration for higher growth and higher trade across the world, there are always going to be other economies which would be wanting to protect this. As a typical example you could see is what you have been hearing from the US recently. There are a lot of trade wars they are talking about. They're looking at increasing trade tariffs for other countries because they want to produce those parts there because it generates jobs, it gives them money, all such things. So this this creates some kind of a fragmentation as well, right? Some countries maybe who are on the receiving end of those trade tariffs and others may retaliate, and then it creates a little more fragmentation. So what happens to be one world view becomes a my view, your view, my team, your team, my group, your group kind of a story. So it generally generates a lot of conflicts, and restrictions will also become part of those activities. Besides, the governments will have to come up with ways to, like you're seeing happening in our country. There are PLI schemes and others which are linked with, which are incentives linked toward making better industry production and job creation and such. So this is one big area. Because of those conflicts and trade, uh, um countries will have to develop their own logistics. They have to develop their security. They have to secure their environments as well. So there are jobs that will be in the space of business intelligence, analytical skills of how you can make it happen better. Logistics, security, strategy are all jobs of the future uh, that are coming as part of this. By the way, I'm saying. I'm grouping it this way, but please do not understand that this creating this job, all of these, whether it's technology change, green transition, shifts in demographies, all economic uncertainty, all of these are interconnected. They cannot be independently viewed and independently called out as this will create this job. They are kind of interconnected. When you want to trade better, when you want to make more profits, having it more sustainable makes sense. So green transition may also add some of these jobs because of that. Economic uncertainty, I don't need to delve into that deeper. I intentionally left that unattended, largely because economic uncertainty comes out of the fact that there is a slowdown in the economy. There isn't enough consumption, and hence there are less of production, and hence there are less of employment opportunities and things like that. Especially when it comes to uncertainty with respect to growth or uncertainty with respect to other trade issues and things like that. The economic uncertainty becomes a bigger aspect which may take away some jobs or which may create new jobs. So that's another driver. In That's not a huge chunk in terms of the key driver, as called out here. Hence, I've left it unattended in the interest of time. So far, these are the top five drivers, but there are another set of drivers, some up to like 12. There are 12 drivers. If you look at the infographics or the detailed report, they will show more smaller drivers aspects as well. One of the other things is also got to do with how the society handles this. So those are key drivers that are driving the uh, transition in the job market. Then you look into the mega trends that are driving it, right? So this is one of the graphs I did not want to do. I wouldn't have done justice to this in my mind map, so I have kept this same here. We talked about the drivers. These are the drivers here in the various colors that you are seeing here, right? And then each one of them has an impact in terms of trends that they are creating. So if you look at that, technological change has been one of the biggest changes that we are seeing. How does it, what does it actually transform? Most part of the worlds are moving towards a digital economy, right? So digitization, digital transformation, they call it by many different names. India, on its part, started a little early and it has its own stack, which we now can monetize working with other partners or share it for the global good. So lots and lots of economies are looking to digitize all of these activities. And with some of the IT trends that contributed to this, if you look up the previous jobs of the future reports, right? When cloud came along, cloud computing came along, people didn't have to buy equipment. So then they were able to deploy things pretty fast. Apps could be developed in a couple of days. You go to a GoDaddy, set it up, and have somebody develop a website for you in 2 days. You're up and running. So those things wouldn't be possible earlier when people had to commission a server, set it up, and all those things. Now with all those advancements and with now generative AI and many tools coming, which can take your requirements in text form, visual form, and other things and translate some kind of a code, this digital access is becoming broader and it is getting more democratized. More nations are able to use digital content and also build their digital solutions to their problems. So this is one of the biggest mega macro trend that is driving, and technology is driving the driving force behind it. So this is a broadening digital access is a mega trend across the world. Most of the developed organizations are moving up the stack in terms of how much more digitized they can do, how much more can, some of them are going for deep learning, some of them are going for automated automation, some of them are looking at augmenting robotics and other things. I'll cover that when we go specifics. Then there are other aspects. If you notice, there is one fourth line item here. This doesn't belong to any of the key drivers because that's the one solo singing single item. But a lot of the labor issues, social issues are uh, problems that can impact the organization transformation, and hence it's called out here. One area of interest for me amongst this was a couple of green items there, which are associated with the green transition. There has to be there is a growing interest across the world, increased effort in terms of reducing the carbon emissions. That is amongst the top five. And the sixth item over there is increased effort to adapt to a climate change. Right. These are a couple of solutions with respect to the ESG domain. Otherwise, the general things like economic uncertainty, demographic shifts are all causing the churn in the job market as we get into the future. So these are the few mega trends. Again, there are like 25, 26 of them. The top 12 items are what are listed here. Digital access, increasing inflation or other things which are economic activities, a couple of green items, and then slowdown in economy are also causing transformation in the organizations. Okay, I'm going to pause here. Is this going okay? Do you guys want me to go deeper in some areas, or how is it?
I guess this is okay. This is
That's
good.
I'm going to carry forward. So we understood the key drivers that are driving, and so within the technology domain, because it's one of the biggest changes that we talked of, which has the highest number of change. What is it changing? What is it that is changing there, right? AI, as we all know, artificial intelligence and information processing systems, which are associated with big data, lots and lots of data to analyze and giving you an example, in an industry like a uh, drugs industry, right? Generating medicines or cure for diseases used to take a lot time, longer time. Now you can simulate a lot of them using the AI ML techniques and large servers that can run them quickly. What used to take to determine how long an Alzheimer could materialize in a person, they used to do it for a month, 2 months, 3 months of processing with the computing powers they had, and without the knowledge of deep learning. Now that can be done in squeeze in less than a day. So these shifts is what is lifting up jobs in all the industry sectors. They surveyed about 32 sectors. All of them are looking to use AI and information processing for better results. Then comes some of these. You use AI to augment what you want to provide as solution, not replace. Right now, there are difficult jobs, jobs like mining, jobs that are pretty uh, precise, things like that, which are better, which are done well with the robotics in play. So robotics, precision treatment in medicine, precision placement for industrial production, things like that are also jobs that people are looking to get into. Some of the difficult jobs which run in high temperature or very cold temperatures and others people can't go. Robotics can be a good replacement of human there, and automating all of those through many autonomous systems is another technological shift that we are looking at. As we move towards a greener energy, generating, storing, and distributing those energy becomes a critical requirement. As more and more IT goes, more and more energy requirements come into play. Um, and the same along the same line is the semiconductor and allied technologies, which basically, as more and more uh, digitization happens, more and more equipment become smart. And hence, the more it gets smart, and the more you can put it into a chip and run it, rather than having to write software and not being sure how consistently it can perform. Putting it into a semiconductor silicon on chip would be a great solution. So most organizations are moving in this direction. Our country is also moving in this direction because we think electronics and artificial intelligence are all going to lift the way in which we operate in the coming future. When we do all of these, new materials, composites are also required because you want to be sustainable. You want to make more money as a business, right? So you can't be using the technology of the past, which is pretty expensive or which may be exhausting, and you have to come up with new materials, new composites. So core engineering is again coming up because of this technology shift. So these are some of the technological change jobs that are coming up. When I go into the jobs view, I will say I'll talk about specifically which of these skills are looked upon as key jobs of the future. Okay, um, I'm going to move on to the next. We are already 7:30, so in the interest of time, I'm going to go shift into specifics on. We talked about what are the key drivers. We also talked about what are the mega trends that are driving those trends on kind of digitalization across and things like that. What are the kind of jobs that we are shifting to, right? Why are the jobs shifting? There are some jobs are growing, some jobs are shrinking, some jobs stay as is. The report provides a good indicator. There is going to be about 12% new jobs that are going to be created, and about 9% of the jobs that are currently being done by people will go away or get replaced by something else. Could be a machine, it could be another person with higher skills, things like that. So 9% of jobs go away that way, 12% new jobs come into play. Nearly about 60, 70%, 70% of the rest of the jobs will, 78 or nearly 80% of the jobs will stay with an upskilling requirement. The upskilling requirement I'll cover when I talk about the skills outlook, right? So when we are talking job shifts, there are certain jobs which shift faster. There are certain jobs which decline faster. So where are the fast growing jobs? So I did mention the key driver on the technological change are the shifts in AI and information processing and robotics and automation. When you are looking at robotics automation, when you're looking at analyzing a huge stream of data, you need jobs that the people with those specific skill sets can do. These are the three jobs that there were again 10 jobs. I picked the top ones. Please go through the detailed report if you are inclined to understand what are the various kinds of jobs there. In terms of percentage numbers, as called out by World Economic Forum, are smaller. So I called out the top three here. Fintech engineering is an interesting one because as more and more economies start moving into becoming developed and other things, they're getting formalized. If you see, a lot of Indians got into the formal banking system because we created bank accounts for them, and then when we started doing direct benefit transfers and other things, they became completely included into that. And UPI coming into it, it has made it extremely kind of widespread across the country. it's not the same story across the world. So financial technology and whoever is implementing those would stand good across the world. In India, we have actually typically, if I were to compare, we have actually digitized better than many developed nations as well. So from that perspective, we may see, yeah, these are already there. But it's not, this report is not for India alone. This report is for the world. A lot of countries are still operating in a slightly older methodology. So that's an area where they think digitization could come in and help. And those are where the biggest jobs are. And obviously, when you automate, when you digitize and things like that, there are certain jobs which are very repetitive, very clerical in nature. So they are the ones which will speedily decline, right? Whether it's a clerk, admin assistants, people who do bookkeeping, things like that. Those kind of jobs are the fast declining jobs. So fast growth and fast decline based on the needs of the industries. These are the few areas. Likewise, there are certain jobs which grow in numbers, may not be technologically, what do you call, fulfilling or high paying jobs, but it creates a lot of jobs. Um, so one way to look at that is where are most jobs getting created and why are they getting created? So when most of the jobs that are getting created in terms of volume, right? As the world population, if you see, we are now 8 billion. By 2030, we are expected to be about 10 billion people. And our climate changes and others are causing a lot more disruptions with respect to food grain production and things like that. So there has to be improvements in that space, and there will be a lot of jobs which will enable higher production, higher whether it is maturing into the next level. Say food production, if it's there is if a country is in food production, you can move into the food processing, and then you move into the next level of kind of what do you call um, non-pesticide way of growing things and things like that. So there are a lot of farming related jobs that are going to be created, and I'm talking worldwide here. So a lot of developing nations are pushing for food security for themselves. And with the growing economy, a lot of economies that are growing, if you particularly take Southeast Asia, which is growing, including India, growing at rapid pace, you might be able to appreciate this, that a lot of this delivery services, whether it is food, whether it is things that you buy, etc., have all become a lot more easier. And this space they expect it to continue, and it's going to create a lot of jobs in that space. And a lot of countries are moving into from being underdeveloped to developing, or developed to more developed and things like that. So these jobs are also something that are coming up. Obviously, technology couldn't be left behind. This creates high value jobs. It also creates high volume jobs. So software development, application development, and others are jobs which we will be seeing more growth in. I'll put an asterisk to it because some of these app development and software development and other things, as generative AI and other tools mature, can get a little more automated, or people may be able to plug and play. You might have heard of low code, no code kind of mechanisms. When they come, those jobs will be there, but some of the mundane things of sitting and setting out an environment and all those things might be taken into automation, and somebody may deploy it in cloud. So these are where some of the most jobs in terms of volume growth is. Again, no surprises in where the most declines are, and where people have to do mundane tasks. A lot of tools, a lot of machines can do that. So some of these jobs will decline between now and 2030 is what the report calls on. So these are the shifts in jobs in terms of what's causing it, and where the pace is, and what's the rationale in which it is changing. Now we talked about jobs. We talked about what is driving jobs. We talked about the macro trends that is creating those job opportunities or taking those job opportunities away. And where are the jobs shifting? We covered it with the job shifts. Let's cover a little bit on the skills outlook, right? The core skills that we all operate in now may not be the core skills that we will be looking to operate as we go into the future. Uh, Again, this is based off of a report of about um, thousand-ish organizations that are part of this WEF and the surveys that they sent it across. So they may have reached about 12 million people uh, worth employers, right? Not employees. They have not reached employees. They have reached the employers. Employers who are connected with about 120 million such employees. They have collected feedback from them, and based on that feedback, they have called out these data. Right now, by the way, skills is not just a hard skill. There are soft skills as well included in it. As of now, right, coming into the 2025, a lot of the skills that are required is there are tools, there are software solutions, then there are manufacturing and other things. But how are you going to put them all together? How are you going to be thinking more at a large system level, solving problems of the system? For that, there is a need for better analytical thinking and working across, working with the team, influencing their outputs and outcomes. That those are the current skills right now. Building resiliency, flexibility, agility. When we talk about that, it is becoming more of you can have a generic solution, people will take it and live with it, but not anymore. People are getting more and more. I want my customized view. Companies are also wanting their customized view. To be able to provide that, one has to be flexible and agile. They may say, I want this today. 2 days down the line, they may come back and say, I don't want, no, 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 this is not what I meant. I want this. So one should be flexible and agile. There's one saying that uh, I want to introduce here, which is be clear about where you want to be, but be flexible to how you get there. That's the expectation that people are talking about here. If you have clarity on where you want to go, but don't stick to this is the only route that I can go. You have to be flexible and you have to be agile. There are different paths that can take there. So that's the skill that is currently required. But as people learn this, it becomes implicit into there, and so the skills will evolve as we go forward. What are they evolving into? They are evolving into, again, these technology skills, which is what is going to drive the shifts and changes, right? One of the things we should all appreciate in this world space that we are in is a lot of the changes that are happening in our business processes, business transformations, or how the outlook of jobs is, are all driven largely by the technology shifts. I'm reminded of what happened in 1990s when India introduced computers into the banking system. Um, it was so much opposed that the government had to call it as a ledger accounting system rather than a computer to allow this. And a lot of banks went on strike and they said this will take away their jobs and things like that. Whereas in reality, it created more jobs and people got into higher level jobs. That's what this transition will also be looking to do, whether it is AI, big data analytics, uh, getting more technology savvy, are all skills that are required, going to be required as we go forward. But as more and more people become digitally enabled, ensuring that it is safe and secure for all kinds of activities that one wants to do. There is going to be higher demand for skills around networking, computers, cyber security, and things like that. Techno literacy is a underpinning skill, which is basically people are looking to be technology aware. Otherwise, they'll be left behind because most industries will move towards being more digital than less. And so literacy in technology areas and then problem solutions through AI, big data, networking, and ensuring they are secure are going to be the top skills as we move into the 2030 part of the world. Now, we talked about current skills that are going to be required as we go forward. But the best way to know where we stand now is there is skill gaps that's to be acknowledged. And then the skill gaps affect how organizations will be transforming into a digital organization and things like that. So how do you address those? So you address the skill gaps through upskilling, right? Then upskilling again happens through the regular course, which is skill development of working employees and things like that. Then there are ways in which you can make it better by automating the whole thing. Or I missed adding, oh, I have an augment here. Right? And then as the skills become more niche, uh, and if there are aging populations in the organization and things like that, organizations may think that it makes more business sense to hire better skilled labor from the market or younger talent from the market than having to upskill, reskill their current lot. So there are multiple ways in which organizations are looking at upskilling or in terms of outlook for increasing the skill set. This is one way to upskill, which is people focused. Then there are other ways to upskill as well in terms of your business operations. Basically, you can augment. So there is a normal person that is working. You augment some of the skills that come from it. Please don't translate this Copilot into the Microsoft's Copilot. Uh, Basically, treat this AI ML based Copilots as partners who work with you to make your work better. So organizations are looking at augmenting their staff with Copilot tools and things like that. Then obviously you can't go prepare every product from scratch and crash and burn before you say this is the final product. So you want to build a virtual world of that. You might have heard of these various metaverses that different organizations are coming up with. Then augmenting that technology into the current skill set would be another way of business transformation an organization will look at. That skilling can come from purchasing such technologies, whether it is software, hardware, or a mix. So that's one way organizations are looking at skilling their staff. Then outsourcing to a process. Right? We generally were outsourcing if you consider the 90s, 2000s, people were outsourcing work which were mundane and other things to places where there was less expensive to make that happen. With outsourcing to a process, you are handing it off to a system or a machine that will do that job. That's another way of leveraging some of these mundane skills required, giving it to a process, and then using the people for higher order thinking. So that's the skill outlook this report proposes. Some of these copilots, augmentative tech, and others were my derivations of this. When you read it, you may derive your meaning of how they want to augment skills. In general, skill-wise, this is how it is shaping out. Now, to circle back, we had some key drivers and mega trends. Then we talked about how the jobs are shifting and what skills are required for the jobs of the future. We covered that. And why is it required? Also, we talked about it. Then we look at how organizations are looking to build strategies around it, right? So generally, workforce strategies evolve around businesses will have to transform to survive and make more meaningful products and make more profits, which is also one of the key things for survival. They have to look into uh, how they are going to build those because this is jobs of the future report. I'm not delving too much into the aspects of how you business transform using technology, using other mechanisms in terms of finances and others. I'm going to limit myself to the strategies around jobs, which is specifically about the talent. So current jobs that they are, if they have to modify into different kinds of jobs, you need a talent pool. So how do you build a talent pool is a strategy that organizations will have to define. Some of the normal standard ways is you upskill people, and that calls for training time, cost, downtime for employees who are undergoing training and things like that. Many organizations where they are finding a skill gap, right, between what is required and what is current. They are looking to hire from the market. When they don't have that in the market, it becomes a uh, demography specific problem or a country specific problem. So many of these organizations, if you consider India, right, NASSCOM and other IT organizations and others, through NASSCOM are pushing the government to upskill. You might have seen this in the last July budget, where upskilling and other needs of organizations was addressed, and companies can given their CSR funds to upskill people, and they can take them from the institutes and train them for the industry and takes credits for those things. So those kind of government interventions are something the report proposes that government should take up to upskill their people so that they are job relevant and they can provide a good job so that they can earn good enough money to survive to be able to lead a better quality life. Besides this, one of the key aspects is generally what happens is more diversity in employment becomes it's an open area that is that's caused a lot of job issues. There are talented individuals who are not able to get into the uh, job pool because either cultural reasons or the opportunity reasons and things like that. Now there is a global awareness about equity and inclusion of all genders into the job market. So that's a big market with a lot of talent. So the workforce strategy, one of the strategies is also to enhance the DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion practices, so that they can bring in more pool of people who are eligible to work into the talent pool. And also, it provides a better what do you call safety net for families as well as for companies because they have diverse people working, diverse perspectives come into play. Their inputs will help them make the products better. So these are things as workforce strategies businesses are looking at. I'm intentionally not covering workforce strategies non-aligned with people. That could be a separate conversation. One related topic is the wages, right? Obviously, when you add all these people, will you pay them less and get more product out of them? Ideal world, from a only business perspective, if people are looking into it, that is what will happen. But there is enough and more awareness now that your development as an organization is related to how well you contribute to the society as well as how well you keep your employees well trained, upskilled, because technology today, tomorrow can change. So how do you keep your people upskilled? How do you make sure they are contributing to the best possible way? Is to ensure they're given the right wages, they have a good environment to work with, and things like that. So that's where the wages component of workforce strategy comes into play. Now, some data points, right? We talked a lot about the various data sets. I talked about the technology that is driving. This infographic talks about where are those various things going. I talked about this AI and information processing technologies, robots, autonomy, energy storage. They have arrived at percentage. These are percentage of organizations telling they are looking for these kind of skills as they go forward into the future. Some teeny bits you would see are pretty interesting. They are nascent technologies right now, but would be a big thing come 2027, 2028. Quantum and quantum technologies, biotechnologies, gene technologies would be very helpful with precise medication, customized medication, and things like that. Satellite space technologies, that's the next venture people will look to after they exhaust every connectivity options within the Earth, they'll go into space. So these are key things that the report says. I'm only showing the infographics because the others will take a lot more conversation. This is the same as what I did mention. There are about 80% of the jobs will continue to evolve in the labor market, but they'll not get out of the workspace. About 92 million jobs they are looking expecting to be displaced. And digital inclusion will add another 170 million net new jobs. That's the infographic summary. The detailed breakdown by country and all those things are available in the detailed report. We can share the link to it or we can take a look at it. I talked about the many, where are the largest growth happening and declining. I had talked about the top three. Here are the full list of 15, 16 items. So these are largest growing jobs. They're not the fastest growing jobs. There are ways in which this can be fast tracked. Countries have country specific policies that they can come up with, which will enable those things. You must have heard something from the budget today where they're pushing for certain kind of food products and other things. So for example, food processing, right? There's some Makana thing that the government announced, and then cotton production. Those are all things that can be fast tracking these focuses. The fastest growing ones, no surprises here. A lot of these top jobs are software defined, software specific. From 1 to 6 is almost software, and the 7 is also software, considering that a lot of electronics and so programming goes into autonomous vehicles. If you come down the list, you find a couple of jobs which are environmental engineers and renewable energy engineers. There again, a tech intervention in that space and solving difficult problems could be interesting. The key jobs that are going to decline fast, anything is just clerical job, right? If you see the first four, they're all clerk jobs. Then there are assistants. And then there are again a few more clerks here. And then you have some attendants, things like that. So those are the jobs which goes away. Countries should look to upskill them. Um, this is again one indicator. One every 2 out of 5 people will need to change their skills, core skills, to be continue to be employable. Is what the report calls out. It's a skill disruption. We covered this part, core skills. I talked to top three. Others, if you look at it, a lot of things are the things here are non-technical, more about agility of a person, individuals, flexibility, creativity, and things like that. As you go into the 2030, it becomes more and more specific because I think big data, networks, cybersecurity, technical literacy, things like that. But one of the things as you notice here, right, resilience, flexibility, agility, lifelong learning, these are all the shifts in the job market that is happening um, because the job. If I'll give you an example. If we had like uh, if you take 60 years, our parents, for example, right? They got into a job, they worked at a company, they got out of the company, retired. The companies would survive much longer than the time they spent working in that organization. Uh, Now, the average life of a company per one of the reports in 2020 was like 9 years. I'm specifically speaking for IT related industry, but generally speaking, add another 5 years, maybe 10, 15 years is the average age of a company life wise. Now we have jobs worth like 30 plus years of work ability. Right? So because they are all changing and because there is shifts happening, lifelong learning, reskilling, being resilient about those changes are becoming a critical skill requirement. It is a requirement now too. It is going to be a bigger requirement as we go forward. Um, I talked about the skill gaps. One of the bigger concerns of all employers is about upskilling their workforce. Some of them are looking to kind of get rid of uh, uh, those without the skill and other things. If you see at the bottom, you go, they do reshoring, they do nearshoring, friendshoring, whatever ways in which they can offload it to somebody and then reduce staff whose skills are becoming less relevant. Those are ways in which organizations become more creative in solving their problems. I'm not going to cover the DEI aspect of it in the interest of time. Generally, how's the participation? What are organizations thinking about diversity and inclusion is what this report calls out. This is an interesting one that I saw in the right now. If you look at it, 22% of the jobs are being done by technology. I couldn't find how they arrived at these numbers. I need to dig deeper. If any of you have done a study on that space, that will be interesting if you can share it. As we go forward into the 2030 kind of window, that's technology being able to do the jobs increases from 22% to 34%. And a lot of the people related jobs will shrink. So it almost becomes a one even split. Technology doing, both technology and humans doing, and then humans only doing becomes a one third, one third, one third kind of a distribution. So that's the expectation. Technology will become more pervasive, and people working with the technology will become more prevalent, and individuals working only without any technology will be only a third. Okay,
Can I add
so
something over here?
sure.
Yeah, just one interesting. The technology, human, and the previous image. So the simple example is many processes are now automated, right? And one of the example that I want to share with every one of you who is in this meeting. So joining Saturdays for Sustainability Learning, uh, you have joined by registering to the Google form and you got automated email. That's how you joined to the WhatsApp group. So this is a process automated. So human involvement, my involvement is zero over there. So just one time I created that system and now it's completely automated. So that's a wonderful application of technology without which I might not be able to do all these tasks. So it's just a technology which practical applications that we can see, and in future also such kind of tasks, I guess we can see more and more automation.
Yeah,
We can see.
true.
Yeah.
True, true. It's the augmentation of technology to make our jobs lives
Yeah.
simpler. Very true, very true. So, um, I'll just take a minute to cover a couple of these things. When you look up this report, you can look specifically into what's happening in India, right? In India, we are talking of similar to global peers. Companies operating in the country are heavily investing in AI, robotics, and autonomous systems. The most recent one, DeepSeek, we talked about China coming up with things, and the Indian government had to come out and say in the next 6 months we are going to come up with our own. So it's a very competitive space there, and a lot of things in the technology area. If you are not in, you're left out. You pay heavy price to be able to leverage those things. So every country is looking to do that. India is not an exception. Again, here India is looking at big data specialists, AI machine learning specialists, security management specialists. All these are trends where India is looking to hire a lot more people in those job skills. Doesn't mean other job skills will not be applicable, but these are where the highest increase in the jobs would be. Others may stay as is or may incrementally go a little higher or a little low, but these are high in what do you call high propensity to improve in terms of job growth in those phases. So this is one information about India. There was one more thing that I wanted to show. There's a table. Right. So when we talked about this profile of the country, right, this is a summary, this is a good dashboard view of how it could be, right? I did a compare of India with the United States. We almost are same 1% here or there, but so it's pretty heartening to see a lot of the skills that are required, a lot of participation of labor force, how much of it is not skilled, how much of it is skilled. They're pretty decent. If you look at these numbers, right? Labor market churn, globally it's like 22%. In India, it's about 20% churn. Means structurally, labor who's working on something after 5 years may be doing something totally different. Skill again, 39 globally. Disruption in core skills that will require. India is also like global average. In terms of DEI priorities, where you have women and participation into the workforce and other things, we are much better in terms of our focus on uh, better inclusion aspects. AI exposure as well. A lot of us in the country have a better exposure than the global average. Um, then if you look at a lot of this, whether it is macro trends, the blue line is our economy, right? The dark blue line is the global average. Almost if you see all of them, except for the cost of living, higher price or inflation, we are better off compared to the global averages that WEF reports. Which essentially means we are doing a lot of things right. Technologies domain as well, a lot of things we are doing better. Energy generation, storage, and distribution is an area where they are seeing it as something that can be done more from as a country. I'm pretty sure that there are people looking into that more keenly. If you look at the jobs, there's a no-brainer. We already talked about it. AI and machine learning specialists, data analysts, business intelligence analysts, business development professionals. All of these are kind of jobs that are increasing in terms of growth. Then there are displacements that we are seeing in assembly workers, administrative assistants, which is again similar to how the world is looking at it. Core skills wise, the tilde that you see at the bottom is where the global averages are. In three out of the five parameters, we are good. Leadership, social influence, and uh, some of the this resilience, flexibility, we may have some work to do in that space per this report. So this is a country view. Um, we are already over 8. I'm going to stop here um, and look for anything specific that you want to do. There was one aspect of an industry specific view that I think, in the interest of time, I'm not going to uh, look to cover it, but it is available in page 255. If you look at it, what is happening in this domain, how does the industry, it's a compare, I compared country with the global metrics. Now we are comparing an industry with a global metric, across board metric. This is also a similar, equally interesting perspectives on how each industry is faring with respect to the average of what they're looking at from an industry doing. It's a very wonderful report. A lot of time must have gone in to churn all these things, to verify, validate, and other things. I am, I have, I don't know how they could do all of these in such greater detail, but it's a well done report from my perspective, and it's a very eye-opening content. You can pick and choose what industry you want. You can pick and choose what country you want, and you can pick and choose what job skills and dig deeper. The best thing about this is also um, I found that you go to this explore the futures of job data, you can do a compare across countries. The only thing they will expect you to do is they want you to accept their marketing cookies. I don't know why they had to do that. But if you accept their marketing cookies, you will get a side-by-side comparison of country with respect to the skill requirements and other things. Also, you can do a side-by-side comparison of industry. So it's a very useful report.
This
I've been
looks like
doing
a
it.
useful tool. Yeah.
Yeah, very useful. Very useful. I found it very, very useful. Uh, and some of them are unfortunately just web page. They don't have a PDF to download. For example, these infographics and others. Uh, the full report you can download from here. It's in 280 pages. But about 100 pages of these are country specific info, industry specific info, and things like that. I had to spend about 4 to 5 hours to go through it once, and about a couple of hours to internalize how I want to cover this in terms of the details that I wanted to share. This again is a bird's eye view of the content. If you want to know very specifically about any domain or industry and others, I would suggest you take the full report. Look at what specifically are you looking at, and it's pretty self-explanatory. And uh, their backend data gathering is pretty exhaustive. So and it's looked upon by thousand. There are about 1,000 MNCs in this list, right? And when I say MNCs, they are not talking of any MNC. They're talking of MNCs which have turnover of more than 5 billion in a year. So more than a 5 billion turnover, 1,000 companies and their respective leaders are represented in this. Besides the industry, there is also government participation and other things. You would have seen this in Davos in January, right? A lot of our folks had been there. I think in 2018, Modi went and gave the keynote speech. Um, so sometimes they bring in politicians, sometimes they bring in industry. That's how it works. But well compiled, well directed report. It can be very useful for, particularly for personnel in the HR and other departments to look at how to do it, and for business developers to identify what upskilling and other things they need to do. And also for consultants to figure where to focus on skilling themselves. The green transition is something I didn't spend too much time on, Dhananjay. I'll be very frank. I wanted to do it this afternoon to speak a little more about. I couldn't get the time to do it. Maybe I'll read it up some other time, and if time permits, I can share it in one of the sessions.
Sure.
Okay.
Forward to
That's pretty much what I had to share. I'm sorry I took it as it became more of a monologue. I wanted to cover as much, and I'm sorry if I rushed through it, folks. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know now or later, whichever works. Okay.
just one question I
Sure.
have. So you talked about fastest growing and biggest growing. Like there were two terms, right? So what is the exact difference between these two
Yeah,
in
that's the
short terms? So
difference
fast,
between
yeah.
understood. Understood.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Let me explain. Um, volume growth is where most number of jobs are created. Is the largest growing or largest shrinking jobs. Or say, for example, in a developing, most countries in the global south, right, are developing organizations. So a lot of the work that they need to do is to bring in food sustainability, to bring in digitization and things like that. Those jobs grow more in numbers. They may grow over a period of
right.
4 or 5 years. So there will be higher number of jobs, but spread across many years. Whereas some of these fastest growing jobs they are required now, and if you have that person, I get them onboarded. Quick jobs, fast, the big data analysis, robotics, automation are all high demand jobs which are needed now. So those are fastest growing and
Right.
fastest declining jobs.
Perfect. Thanks. If anyone want to ask question, please you can. You can raise your hand and please ask your question. But just I wanted to add one more comment while you were explaining about how the skills are required and how it's changing. So there is a popular term called as VUCA world, VUCA. All right. So it is like V is for volatile, U is for uncertainty, C is for complexity, and A for ambiguity. And as we are moving ahead in this, let's say, 21st century, what we are seeing is this VUCA concept is growing day by day. So every year we are seeing this volatility increasing, complexity increasing. There are a lot of things that are uncertain and ambiguity, of course, it's increasing. So I am I'm just amazed at this is 2025. So how 2050 would look like, or
Yeah,
2075 would look like. And with this exercise, maybe this report can throw some light on it. And at the same time, I can add that if you know about this author, Alvin Toffler, so I must say he was a magician because in 1971 he wrote a book, The Future Shock, and in that he predicted what will happen in, let's say, 2020s and in next 50, 60 years. And if you see that short book, everything is now looking like this is the future what he has predicted in 1971. So I guess these reports will force us to think about how what will happen in 2050 or 2070. And for all of us, this is a question of interest, how we can grow our skills, and uh, maybe it's not just about being employable, but of course uh,
yeah.
using our skill set, improving continuously, and contributing whatever we are doing. Yeah, so that's
Very
it
true,
from
very
my
true.
side.
And I
But
think Alvin
please,
Toffler is a great guy. He wrote The Future Shock. He had a vision of what it will be like this. By the way, one of the organizations I mentioned about Futurist, right? One of the organizations that has derived a lot of influence from is from Alvin Toffler. There is a director of that called Bob Johansson. He has written a follow-up book on that called Office Shock. Okay.
okay,
So he's also a futurist, and you can treat it as a sequel of the Future Shock, where people will be scared
okay.
of
So
the future.
for those who don't know what is future shock, so what he thought, in future what will happen, changes will happen so fast, so it would be like you are into a different time zone. Let's say you have traveled some.
Hello, hello, can you hear me? Did we lose Dhananjay?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I think we lose
We've
Dhananjay.
not lost.
So
Okay.
maybe we wait for a few
Sure,
moments.
sure, sure. He was mentioning about the VUCA world. I was also mentioning about this futurist thinking, right? So the futurist thinking is also about VUCA world in a different perspective, where the revised VUCA is visionary, um, understanding, clear, and agile. So that's what the if you read the book on by Bob Johansson on Office Shock, he will talk of the VUCA world, which is more visionary, understanding, clear, and agile. So he provides a counter to the VUCA world that we live in. How do you change the VUCA of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity to visionary, understanding, clear, and agile world? So it's if you get some time to look at it, you can look him up. His name is Bob Johansson. He has written 4 or 5 books. This one is a good one, the Office Shock, and it takes over from where Alvin Toffler left on Future Shock. Hey, while you were not there, I was just adding a little more perspective.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks. Yes. So, just quick questions. If you have anything or anything you want to add as a remark or as a, please, you can. So I'll share my insights. Maybe others can also share theirs. So one thing that I got to know from this report is definitely technology is growing. So it's not like there are problems with technology that we see, but definitely technology will grow in future. And how do we equip ourselves with that? So that is the first question that I also have now. Let's say if technology is growing so fast, what are the different ways that I first become upskilled, and second is how do I uh, become safe from the dangers of technology? So that is also one thing that we should look at. That's one of the learning that I got.
Yeah.
Others, please, if you want to share anything, please you can. Any question, any comment? This is your opportunity. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Achyut, for your first thing is sharing summary of this report. So it's a very difficult task because reading all and sharing it with all of us. So that's an effort. Thank you so much for sharing it in such a simple way.
Thank you
It
so
was
much. And
wonderful.
I really appreciate the time and the audience. You could have been anywhere. It's a weekend. We could have been doing something else, much more fun and things like that. But you prioritized this and trusted us to deliver this content. So thank you for your time and interest in this topic, and Dhananjay for the opportunity to share a little bit of what I learned from this exercise.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, so I'll stop recording now, and if we have any offline conversation,